You glance at the clock. It's early. The light outside your window is still gray. And somewhere out there, a bird is already singing, right on schedule, almost like it set an alarm of its own. You assume it's just reacting to the light. Nothing more. But the real answer is far stranger. Somewhere inside that small, feathered skull, something might be happening that scientists once swore was impossible outside the human brain. That bird might be thinking about time itself. For most of history, the idea would have been laughed out of a lab. Animals live entirely in the now, the thinking went. No memory of yesterday, no worry about tomorrow, just an endless, flickering present with nothing carried forward and nothing held in reserve. A bird doesn't remember its breakfast. A bird doesn't plan its dinner. It made sense in a way. A bird's brain is smaller than a grape. Why would something that small need to carry yesterday around with it? Or does it? In the late 1990s, a psychologist named Nicola Clayton started watching a bird called the western scrub jay bury food, not just where it buried it. When? She and her colleague Anthony Dickinson gave the jays two things to hide: waxworms, a favorite snack that rots within days, and peanuts, which keep for weeks. Then they waited. A few hours later, the jays dug for the worms first, every single time. But when the team waited several days before letting the birds search again, something changed. The jays skipped the worms completely and went straight for the peanuts. The worms by then would have rotted. And somehow, the birds already knew it. Was that just luck? Could a bird really be keeping track of all that? This wasn't a lucky guess. The jays were tracking three things at once: what they had hidden, where they had hidden it, and how long ago. Researchers gave this a name: episodic-like memory. Not quite the same as your memory of this morning, but uncomfortably close. For decades, this kind of thinking, holding on to the past and using it to shape a decision about the future, had been treated as one of the last walls between human minds and everything else. A wall a bird the size of your fist had just walked straight through. And it gets stranger. On the other side of the world, in the Canadian Rockies, researchers Susan Healy and Andrew Hurley were watching rufous hummingbirds visit wildflowers. Each flower refills with nectar at its own pace, some every 10 minutes, some every 20. The hummingbirds learned the schedule. They didn't just remember which flowers had nectar. They remembered how long ago they'd drained each one and timed their next visit to arrive right as it refilled, while skipping the flowers that hadn't had enough time yet. A bird with a brain smaller than your thumbnail was running a mental timetable for dozens of flowers at once. So is this memory? Or is it something closer to a forecast? Maybe it's both. Because some birds don't just track time in minutes or hours, they track it in months, without ever once checking a calendar. In the 1970s, a researcher named Eberhard Gwinner raised garden warblers in cages, indoors, with no seasons and no change in daylight. Nothing in their world to mark the passing months. And yet, once a year, at almost exactly the moment their wild cousins would be packing on fat for a journey of thousands of miles to Africa, these caged birds, who had never made the trip and never seen a map, started doing the very same thing: restless, hopping at night, burning energy with nowhere to go. Gwinner called it zugunrua, migratory restlessness. Something inside these birds was counting down to a departure date that nobody had ever told them about. How does a body know a date it has never experienced? So which is it? Do birds remember the past like the jays? Predict the near future like the hummingbirds? Or carry an entire year folded inside them like the warblers? The honest answer is all three, running on different clocks, layered on top of each other. And here's the part that should make you a little uneasy. You don't have a single clock either. There's no organ in your body that ticks in seconds. No internal stopwatch hidden behind your ribs. Your sense of earlier and later and right now is stitched together the same way a bird's is. Out of memory, out of hormones, out of light hitting your eyes at certain angles, at certain hours. You don't feel any of this happening. You just feel like yourself, moving smoothly through one continuous present. But underneath that feeling, dozens of smaller clocks are running at once, in your gut, your skin, your blood, each one slightly out of step, quietly shaping your mood and your hunger and your focus all day long. Think about that flutter of nervous energy a week before a deadline, or the way your body wakes you at the same time every morning, without an alarm. or the sudden craving for something you haven't eaten in months, arriving right around the same time of year you last ate it. What is that, if not a kind of zugunrua of your own? None of it is so different from a jay digging for peanuts, or a warbler pacing its cage, or a hummingbird circling back to an empty flower at exactly the right moment. Maybe the real question was never whether birds understand time. Maybe it's this: what does it even mean to understand something if your own body has been doing it correctly your whole life without ever asking your permission? So the next time you glance at a clock, remember this: the numbers on it are new. Humans only invented them a few thousand years ago, but the feeling underneath them, that quiet, constant tracking of what came before and what's coming next, is something you share with a bird outside your window, a bird that has never needed to check the time because some part of it never stopped counting.